Just Time Out with Nigel and Christoph, the podcast.
Hi, welcome to Coach's Timeout, the podcast. My name is Coach Nigel Tolentino from Black Frog Sheeran. And not with me tonight is Coach Christoph Nye from Arancia La Rochette. He had to beg off because he has to start preparing for a midweek game against T71. It was just totally understandable, and good luck to both teams, by the way. But don't worry, we have a full slate for you guys tonight. We have Coach Brian Carroll once again joining us for his assessment of the past weekend's game days. And of course, we also have our special guest for today, none other than Basketesh's Clancy Rugg. All right, so let's start off with Coach Brian here. And okay, here we go. Okay, good evening. And here with me is again our special guest analyst, Coach Brian Carroll. And Coach Brian, it's been a lot of action this past week.
We got a full week's worth of the men's games, the women's games, and a lot of the teams that were predicted to do well did what they were supposed to do. But we had one really big surprise that went on up in La Rochette. So I'm looking forward to being able to talk about what happened in the Total League men and women this week.
All right. Okay. So, well, you mentioned the big surprise. So let's not sit on that Easter egg and let's just go out with it. Coach Christoph Nye's not here with us tonight, but hey, they did their job in Arancia.
Yeah, they well-deserved win. You know those guys, they get up for those games because they're playing with each other throughout the whole summer. They best friends, spending the night over each other's houses, talking trash about what's going to go whenever they play. And Excella was undefeated, and La Rochette came off of a loss of Orphanage, and one team was riding a high, the other team had something to prove, and to La Rochette's credit, they stayed the course and they did what they were supposed to do and got a much-needed win.
True. They kept their composure. You can say that. The entire second half, it was all about their poise and their calm, and they kept their composure even if Excella threatened with just cut the lead to 2. They still made the baskets. They still made their runs. And like you mentioned, their defense was really, really good for this game.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the article that they wrote. They said that Excella's offense was impossible to guard, okay? And the great thing about what you saw was La Rochette got off to a big lead. They surrendered the lead. They ended up going down by as many as 7 points in the early part of the third quarter. And then they pulled through, and then they finished the game, I think, 40-23 to win by 10 points. So when you got a team that is going through ups and downs throughout a game and they keep their composure and they trust in their teammates and the schemes, then you're going to able to beat teams that you're not supposed to beat, especially at home. So that win for La Rochette is one that they can look back to at the end of the year when they talk about where they are in the standings of a game they weren't supposed to win, but they were able to get the job done.
Okay. Well, to Excella's credit as well, like we can also say that they were missing some key players. Like even Delgado was not suited up. But still, not to take anything away from how Arancia or how La Rochette played that game. They played their defensive schemes or defensive playbook to the best of their abilities, and I think that's what won them the match. Like they just hustled all over the place, covered the kick out passes, and closed out on the 3-point shooters.
Yeah, I think the Luxembourg players they shot 19% from the field, okay, and even the Americans they didn't shoot that well from the field either. I think Puono he shot 50%, and Jones, he shot about 41%. So at the end of the day, when you look at what they were able to do defensively, La Rochette has never been known to be a team that was the top in the league defensively. But right now they're in second place defensively in the league, and that's one of the reasons why they're sitting at 5-2 and tied for third place in the total league.
All right, well, let's turn the cameras over to Heffingen versus Racing. That was a very low-scoring game, 71-54. Chris Jones, I think, had like 25 points in 28 minutes. But what's the story with Racing in this one?
Well, the story with Racing is that they're getting used to playing with 2 new pros, or second game in a row that they're playing without Bobby Melcher. And when you got a team that's like a Heffingen team that's scrapping the same as they do, have a similar type of identity in terms of trying to beat your opponent up and making you earn every single basket. The will of the team that's going to be victorious is the one that fights the hardest, competes the best, and has the best continuity. And as I mentioned before, with these teams that are are changing their pros and their coaches on a consistent basis, it's hard to develop that same type of continuity. Coach Daniel over in Heffingen, this is his second year. Nelly's been there for 3 years, and he's been in Luxembourg as long as I have, since 2009. And Racing moved off of a veteran player who's been doing some extraordinary things to help them remain competitive in National One, and Scott Morton, and they're paying for it at the moment. So the new pros that are coming in, obviously they have talent. They're in a position where they have a chance to showcase their skill set. But between the both of them last game, they didn't do enough to help them beat Hefford.
All right. Well, you mentioned Scott Morton, and I agree with you. He is, he was basically the glue that kept Racing together all these years, from National 2 all the way till he finally, him and Coach Mike moved them up to National 1. And for them to lose that part of their fabric is something that, really, I think, makes them a little bit more, or sets them back a little bit more in terms of free adjustments. The story is here as well is that Racing shot 4 threes, or made 4 threes out of almost like 25 when they had 15 the last game. So their pros, or basically the high score, was 12 points, and that was Franklin Giles. So is that a testament to the defense? Do you think?
It's a testament that Heffingen's defense has always been a staple of what they want to be about, the identity of their basketball team. And this year, they haven't had as consistent of a defensive presence as they've had in other years. Racing has always been a team that, from the Luxembourg perspective, that you're not expecting to have 2 or 3 GICL players that are scoring in double figures. They're normally grinding it out in low-scoring games and looking to try to take advantage of their discipline defensively to help them win games. So if they do the job defensively, which they did, they held the team under 71 points. You like to think that you can get timely enough shooting and consistent enough production from your Americans that you can win a game where your opponent scores 71 points. But obviously that didn't happen in this game, and it did happen the week beforehand whenever they played Contra. So I think that 3-point shooting for them is something that's going to be a big factor as to whether or not they're going to be successful in the matches that they play.
Christopher Jones is a guy who's very, very familiar, who you're very familiar with. It's nice to see him score 25 points in this game. He's been on and off for quite some time, but it looks like he's finally regained his footing here for his new club in Heffingen.
Oh, well, you look at him, I mean, he's had a lot of years off. He's moved around the clubs. I had him whenever he was in Contra. He moved to T71. He took a couple of years off. He went to Grangeval last year. I think he only played in 2 games in Grangeval. And then this year in Heffingen, he's been consistent in terms of showing up, but he hasn't been consistent in terms of his production. But everybody knows when he's on his game that he's one of the most talented players in the league. And every time that he steps between the line, he's going to give 100% with everything that he's doing. So between the lines, you just hope that he doesn't have the need to try to do too much, when things aren't going well. And the fact that he shot a high percentage in the last game, I think he was 8 for 16 from the field, shows that Coach Daniel is doing a really good job of letting him know where to look for his shots and how to be the most effective version of Chris Jones that he can be as he gets older in age, because he's in his early 30s now. It's a little bit different than when you had all the energy in the world in your early 20s and you could play for 40 minutes straight without getting tired.
And we know that so well. All right, we go to Concord and the Pikes. So we talk about the comeback or bounce back, and that was Concord. They won by 11 points against Mussel Pikes away. It's basically they played away, and old reliables again being in there for Concord with Rene with 15 points. Rene Walsfeld, and Raul Birnbaum didn't score much with 5 points, but he played really well. He orchestrated the offense very well. And they also got some points from Nico Hitlet with 8 points in the game. But again, their 2 Americans or their 2 pros have been consistently steady. What's next to look forward to for the Pikes? Or they now have a losing record at the moment. So,
when you look at the Pikes, we mentioned it last week that they're another one of those teams that have, I guess, come back with a different coach and 2 different professionals. And the guy Keith Stone, to his credit, He wasn't a guy who was a big-time scorer whenever he was in college. He averaged 5 points a game as a senior at the University of Miami. He struggled in his first game against La Rochelle with 7 points, and since then he scored 20-plus in every single game. So they've gotten consistent production from him. Their newest American has stepped in and is averaging in and around 19 points a game. He didn't have a great game against Conter. And the Luxembourg guys on every given day are all capable of scoring in double figures. The problem is that they haven't developed an identity either offensively or defensively this year to know what you're going to get from them on a consistent basis. Playing a direct rival at home in Conter is a game that you need to win. Okay, other games, I think they've lost 4 games already at home, okay, to start the season in their first 7 games. One of their wins, their big win, was against T71 at home, which shows what they're capable of doing. But if you're only doing that once every other game, okay, then you're going to be in a battle just to make the playoffs. And there's so many teams that are bunched up in that spot. Losing a game like this against a direct competition could end up being one of the reasons why you're on the outside looking in at the end of 22 games.
All right, Coach can return to Steinsel for a date with Amical, and well, Steinsel finished with 79 points, and T71 did the launch had 107. So that Steinsel team is still young. There's a lot of youth in there. What can you tell me about this team at the moment?
They're playing with 3 different non-JICL players. Okay, so when you go into a match, knowing that 3 players are going to take up maybe 30 minutes plus in each game, that doesn't leave a whole lot of playing time for the rest of the JICL players. So you got to make a choice when you're Steinsel. Is it about developing the players that you have for next year? Are you going to come back with the same pros that you are playing with this year to try to build something for the future? Are you going to come back with the same coach for this year to try to build something for the future? Or are you going to be blowing it up every year with different pros and different coaches and not allow for these youth players to get the experiences that they need to develop in a year where nobody's going to go down? So I'm trying to figure out what the vision this year of Steinsel is going to be when they're talking about the rebuilding project that they have, because since they won the title 3 years ago, they won the double 3 consecutive years. Okay, they've been trending downward ever since. They finished in 4th place, and which was a good season with Coach Alex. And the following year, they let him go in the middle of the year. They finished in the 9th spot. Okay, nobody went down because of COVID. And this year, they're sitting at the bottom of the league in the 10th spot, or no, in the 11th spot actually, at the moment, tied with Sparta. So at the end of the day, they got to figure out what they want to do, how they want to put together this rebuilding project, and stick to whatever plan that they want to do.
Moving over to T71, we still have, of course, Frank Mueller still with 16, and their 2 pros also still scoring a lot. Tom Schumacher also had 16 points on 5 of 10 shooting. And, well, I think most of them, well, like 8 out of 10 guys scored for T71. Looking forward for T71, the next coming games, I think they have Arancia on Wednesday. You think that this is going to be another, they're going to be able to continue this winning streak?
Well, at the moment, T71 is playing the best basketball of any team in the league. I think you can make an argument that Wolferdans is having a nice push, and they've done really well as we've restarted the season. But T71, outside of their loss against Muselpikes and a tough road win that they had against Conter, most of the games have been pretty, the outcome hasn't been in doubt. And I think the big thing about all of this is the fact that they're getting contributions from at least 5 different guys on every game. This game, they had 5 guys in double figures. Joe Hoiser had 13 points, okay, as well. The bench, even though they're not scoring well, they're providing good energy. Guys like Axel Mendez, Steve Landers are starting to become fixtures in the rotation. They're going to get Kevin Moore back at some point. They're going to get Dino Semen, who's a young player who has a lot of potential. He's going to have an opportunity to get into the rotation. So they have the ability to go into a game with 7, maybe 8 guys that Coach Ken Dieterich can count on a consistent basis. And if you're able to get production from 7 or 8 guys in this league, then that puts you in a great opportunity to beat whoever it is that you have in front of you.
You mentioned a good point. I didn't even notice with how good T71 is playing that Kevin Mura has been out for the past 2 games, and
Yeah, I
he
mean,
is their starting point guard.
yeah, Kevin Moore, I mean, he's a gamer. He's a guy who was averaging 20 points a game whenever he was involved with us. And he's accepted his role here as being a player who is going to take what the defense gives him instead of looking to score every single time that he touches the basketball. He's embraced that role. And whenever he does come back, he just adds another dimension of shooting and toughness and competitiveness that's going to help T71 compete for a championship.
Moving over to Telstar and Residence Walford Launch. Walford is continuing their hot shooting streak since the restart. And right now, for this game, they shot 39.4 from three, which wasn't much, but it was still 13 threes. So it's still a lot. And I think one of their bench players, Yanni Kovac, scored hit 4 out of 6 threes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Coach Alex's team is, well, basically they hit the ground running for the restart.
Now, they're when you look at the group, and we mentioned it last week, okay, when you talk about the bench and you have 6 people with 9 or more points, or 7 people with 9 or more points, basically for the second consecutive week, and you don't have to play your Americans big minutes. LaQuincy had 25 and 14, and he missed 8 free throws. Okay, he was 3 for 11 from the free throw line, and he was still able to dominate this game, okay, as a smaller guard on the boards, which shows that they have competitive guys essentially at every position. It's pretty rare to have a point guard on your team that's leading your team in rebounding at that particular game, but he has the ability to do that. Malcolm Krebs is a guy who can go off for 15 plus points. Dean Gint can go off for 15 plus points. The other American is a guy who's capable of scoring over 20 plus a game. And when you look at the roster, it's looking more and more that you can start talking about this team as a team that can compete to make the top 4 and can scare some of those 3 teams that are looking to championship or bust type of teams of Excella, T71, and Basket Esh.
Let's say I'm going to ask you a hypothetical, or I'm going to try to put a little something into you here. Who are your early picks for like top 6 at the moment?
No, I'm saying I'm going to put in an article today. I'm working on a 10 things article for this week. I think that you can separate the league in kind of 3 different leagues or 3 different divisions. You got the teams that are competing for a title, which I believe are T71, Excella, and Basket Esh. You got teams that are competing for the playoffs or the Final 4, which is Volferdons, La Rochette, Heffigan, User Pikes, Racing, and I'm forgetting one team at the moment. In Contern. And then you got the rebuilding teams that are focusing their attention on developing the players for next season, which is Steinzel, Sparta, and Telstar. Okay, when you look at the teams that should make the top 6, if you were predicting, okay, User Pikes would normally be one of those teams, especially with the season that they had last year. Racing normally will be one of those teams, okay? And then you have Heffigan, who made it last year, who looked to improve and bringing in Chris Jones. But if you look at those 3 teams, I don't think that anybody can be assured that how the season started, that they're going to be in that mix, especially with how well Volferdons, La Rochette, and even Contour now have been playing. So I can't make a definitive choice at the moment of who I think is going to make it, but I will say that Muser Pikes and Racing especially have been disappointed because they were supposed to be definitives top 6 and potential top 4 teams going into the year.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. Do you have any of those games scheduled, or are there any games in there that you're excited to see for this Wednesday, actually?
I mean, you got T71, La Rochette as the teams with the best record. Okay, T71 has been playing the best, in my opinion, even better than Excella. Even though Excella was on an undefeated roll, I think that if you look at the way that T71 has been constructed, I think when they go head to head, there's going to be some difficult matchups that Excella is going to have to deal with whenever they play. So T71 La Rochette, we're going to find out how real La Rochette really is when talking about teams that are competing for a top 4 spot, if they can go on the road and make this a competitive game and have a chance to win. But to me, I'm looking at these teams that are in the middle, the Muser Pikes Racing, and one of those teams is going to have a significant setback to their hopes of being able to make the playoffs if they lose that game, especially Racing being one game below and only having 2 wins. If Muser Pikes is able to get a big win, I think that you may see some of the talk of what Racing needs to do in order to compete for a playoff spot start to come up, and you may see a little bit of panic in a team that invested a whole lot in their new coach and Bobby Melcher and now the 2 Americans that they have. A 2-6 record wouldn't sit well with a lot of people on that committee, I can imagine.
We have the Sparta versus Steinsel game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, 2 rebuilding teams, and for Sparta, they've been playing, better. They played better this week compared to last week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that aside, they can bring this momentum into maybe grabbing a surprise win in Steinsel, or is it possible that for the past 2 weeks their Luxembourg players have been giving it over 120%? Is fatigue going to be a factor for these young guys?
I think that right now the Sparta team is on a little bit of a mission to let everybody know that they're coming and that they're not afraid of any team that they need to play now. Now, granted, some of these players like Mike Feipel and Matthijs Wolf and Yannick Verbielen, okay, those guys have been playing heavy minute. I'm not sure if Pitt Koster is going to be available for any of these games coming up because he didn't play in this game this past weekend. But playing a team that has 3 professional players or 3 non-JLCL players is going to be difficult for a team that's playing with none. But I know that Sparta is going to be up for that challenge, and I wouldn't be surprised if they came out of there with a victory. So that's a flip a coin kind of a game for me, and I think that that's going to be one of the games that we've been hoping for in the Total League that's going to be extremely competitive, because most of the games that we've seen so far have had results that has not really been in doubt in the fourth quarter.
I agree, but like they said, like we keep saying here, these are games that are fun to watch and fun to look out for. And I'm circling that Steinsel Sparta game. Well, I'll be excited to watch that in the midweek. All right. So, are there any other things that you have for us today for the men's league?
I think the women's teams, all the home teams were able to get a win. T71's girls team was able to win a close one against Grangerwald. Those are 2 teams that have competed for championships in the past, 2019. Alex Lowen had a shot almost in the same area that she knocked down to win the championship, which to me is still one of the most clutch shots that I've ever seen in any sports. You make the shot, you win the championship, you miss the shot, you lose. And she was able to make a couple shots in that same spot to help secure the win. And she wasn't able to do it this time, but you can tell that there's still a little bit of a rivalry between those 2 games. And all the other home teams, they won significantly. So Muser Pikes and T71 women's team are atop the league at 7-1. And the teams like Grangerwald and Valford Orange are hunting to be able to catch those 2 teams. So I think it's important for the women's basketball here to get a whole lot of love, because those girls are practicing hard every single day and working to get better and better, just the same as the men.
I agree. We're coming up with some special episodes that highlight women's basketball, and honestly, I cannot wait to get to talk to the personalities involved in women's basketball here in Lux. So, Coach Brian, thank you very much for gracing us with your time again, and looking forward to your article coming out. It's coming out tomorrow.
I hope so. We'll see.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. All right.
All right, take care. Have a good week.
You too, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Coach's Timeout with Nigel and Christoph, the podcast.
You're back with me, and our guest for this evening is no other than, I would like to call him the Colossus of Luxembourg basketball, Clancy Rugg. Not just because of the haircut that reminds me of Colossus the X-Man, but basically because of how he plays under the basket. So, Clancy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, man.
No worries. Hey, that was a great game you guys played against Sparta last night.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good. That's our first win of 2021. Feels good after a hard game last weekend against Dudelange to feel the feeling of winning again. So that really brings the team together and keeps pushing you forward, make you want to win more.
All right. Okay. So before we go to the total league, we'll talk a little bit about you and how you started off here in Luxembourg, or how you started off basically. Um, One thing that people don't know about you too much is that you were a 4-year academic honor roll student for the American East Conference, right?
That's right.
But and you took up business management and business administration. Was there
Yes.
ever a fallback plan for you after playing, or like if basketball doesn't pan out, what was your plan B?
Uh, I actually wanted to get into coaching.
Mm-hmm.
If basketball never worked out, I was going to try to coach with the University of Vermont, where I went to school. Um, Luckily, I was able to get my first job here in Luxembourg with the Pikes, and since then, I never looked back.
Oh, I think it's lucky for Luxembourg, more so than lucky for you, man. All right, so you were also 2013 America East All Conference second team, and then in your senior year in 2014, you made first team. Right.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about the America East Conference? Like, is it a tough league or is it a tough conference?
No, it's a smaller conference. It's definitely one of the middle lower conferences. I would say, the Big East and the conferences out west are a lot stronger, with the big schools that you hear more about. So the American East is definitely one of the smaller, off the radar type conferences.
Mm-hmm. But do they make the NCAA tournament? I'm asking because March Madness is just around the corner. I mean,
Yeah,
like they do. Yeah.
Yeah, one team will make the tournament because the smaller conferences usually only get a bid if you win the tournament. So
Okay.
that's a guaranteed spot in the March Madness. Normally, no smaller teams will get invited to March Madness like the bigger schools do.
Mm-hmm. So they have to win the entire shebang before
You
they
have to
get an
win.
invite.
Yes, you have to win the conference tournament to
Mm-hmm.
get their spot into the March Madness.
And you also grew up in Vermont, right?
I did. Not even 5 minutes drive away from the campus, actually.
All right. So was that like a conscious thing, like I'm gonna play for UV, or was it more like it was just there, and they made that offer because you're obviously a hometown favorite.
Yeah, well, actually, after my high school, I left for a year, and I did a postgraduate year in Northfield Mount Herman, which is in Massachusetts, not too far away. It's
Mm-hmm.
about a three-hour drive, but I was away from home for a year, and then after that, I decided to come home, and it felt right, kind of coming home and playing in front of the same people that I grew up around, and I was back around my family and my friends, and I was pretty comfortable with coming home back to Vermont.
Okay. I also checked the records there, and it says that you were seventh all time in free throws for
Yes.
University of Vermont. That must have been rough.
Well, yeah, that was my game back then. I mean, if you compare the game that I have today back to the game that you would have watched me play back in University of Vermont, I was a really different player. I was
Mm-hmm.
pretty much entirely under the basket, driving only to my right hand, looking to get fouls to the free throw. I think my senior year, I was around like 50% of my points were from free throws.
Wow.
I wasn't shooting barely any jump shots at all. It was all attacking the basket, kind of trying to be like sneaky and tricky around the basket, get my fouls, get my points like that. But yeah, no, not a lot of threes. So I was really getting to the line a lot.
Yeah, it says here you had 184 free throws for your senior year 2013 to 2014. That's a lot of fouls, man.
Yes.
Did you have to like really focus on building up your body, upper body strength, or just to be able to take those blows under the basket?
Well, I mean, I've always been skinny. I mean, I've never been the strongest guy on the floor through college, even now in Luxembourg. So I'm used to it, playing against bigger, stronger guys. You just kind of get used to taking the hits and being able to bounce back, make a couple free throws. For me, that's just part of the game that I've grown up with.
Okay. Well, the reason why I'm asking about UV or University of Vermont is that, I want you to paint a picture for us of how it feels like as a pro athlete, to bring your basketball dreams like halfway around the world into a different culture, into a different, well, basically, I would say culture shock, because when I came over here as well, sometime like 10 years ago, I in my mind, it was like, well, it's in Europe. Everyone speaks English. You know what I'm saying? So it was
Yeah.
a bit of a shock to me coming in as well. But you know, we adapt. How is it for a young pro athlete at that point in time to go somewhere, to fly halfway around the world and just try to, you know, chase your dreams?
Culture shock is just the perfect term for it. You go from college where you're pretty spoiled. You know, you have like 24 hours a day trainers, guys to go, I don't know, rebound for you. You get all your food right on campus in the cafeteria. You know, everything is like taken care of you for you, just like this. You know, like right down the line. And now, like all of a sudden, you're living for your own life. You're taking care of yourself. And for a lot of people, there's the language barrier. You know, I was lucky that I came over speaking a good amount of French, so I could use that. And now I've learned Luxembourgish, so I can get past pretty much anywhere. But for a lot of players, it's really difficult their first years here in Europe.
Okay, let's go back to that part that you said about French, because a lot of people who come in here, nada, like zero, anything else.
Yes,
It's just English.
zero.
And how did that turn out for you? I mean, how did that come to be, learning and speaking French?
Well, Vermont's so close to the Canadian. It's on the Canadian
border. Yes,
exactly. And Burlington is very close to Montreal, so there's a lot of that's French-speaking Canadian people who come down through Vermont in the summertime.
mm-hmm.
So growing up in school, we all learned French, and that was we had no choice. So I took French from like middle school all the way through 2 years of university. So it was like eight or more years. No, I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but I mean I can get by in all conversations, you know, and I'm pretty comfortable in French. But yeah, it was at least like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years or something of French classes. So
nice.
it was lucky I came here. I could use it.
All right. Well, when you were a rookie coming in here, because I know a lot of Americans also who came here as pros and then, you know, played 1 year, 2 years. You were able, you have been a staple in Luxembourg basketball for the past 7 years now. You know,
Man, 7 years.
as 7 years.
I'm getting old.
Well, older. Let's just say older. All right. Was there ever like the pressure of homesickness compounded with having to be on top of your game? Because we all know the life of a pro. You know, sometimes if they like you, they like you. If they don't, it's goodbye. No questions asked.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I know you probably haven't been in that position, but a lot have been, and you know, it's just for everyone else to get the feel of how it is, or just to get them an understanding of how it feels like to be a pro and having all of this, you know, around you and still having to play your best, so you don't get sent home. You know, so can you tell us a little bit about how that feels?
Yeah, sure. Homesickness is real, man. It's a real thing, especially for first year professionals. You know, like you said, you leave your friends and your family and your comfort zone, and then you kind of just get dropped off in a place where you don't know anybody, you don't know where to go. Like I said, the language barrier is tough. You start missing the comforts of home, you know. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was the same way. My first year or 2 years, it was really tough, and I couldn't wait to get on the plane and get back home. And yeah, another part of that question that you were asking is there's a lot of pressure to play well. You can have personal things going on with yourself or back home with your family, but at the end of the day, you're a professional basketball player. And if you're not performing like a professional basketball player at the level where people expect you to, you know, especially Americans here in Luxembourg, you have expectations, you know, how you need to play and perform. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line for pretty much everybody here. True. So it's tough. It's definitely a learning curve, and if you're not ready, you know, a lot of guys get sent home even before the first game if they're not ready to play or if they don't fit in for whatever reason. So, you know, I was really lucky. I found a great group of guys in the Muzelpikes my first couple of years, and I was also lucky. We were winning. We were a really successful team, and so I consider myself lucky compared with a lot of guys who maybe weren't as lucky as I was.
True. You also have your family here, right? Yeah. Yes. Over the past 7 years, okay. You have you have a son and you have one kid?
Yes, yeah. My son is 3 years old now.
All right, cool. Did you find it easy to integrate in basically the fabric of Lux life?
As time, it took me a while for sure, but as time went on and you start getting more comfortable around your friends in the community, and you start, you know, going out and talking to more people, then you start getting more comfortable with it for sure. I mean, now that I've been here 7 years, this feels as much like home to me as back in the States does, you know, especially with my family here. And we have a great place to live with the community and all my friends here. So at this point, I'm very comfortable with Luxembourg and Luxembourgish culture, I guess you could say.
So you mentioned the bikes, and when you came over here in 2014-15, you started off with Jarmar Gully as a rookie. And like you said, you guys were hella successful. You know, I remember we played you in a preseason game, and I was just looking at you guys. I'm like, dang, these two guys can ball. And of course, you also had that veteran Pikes team, and I think Tom Welter was just coming in as a young rook at that point in time, and you still had Laurent Schwartz manning the point. Can you tell us about your partnership with Jarmar and that team that you played for, or that you played with? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we had a really tough team. Well, actually, the first season we struggled a little bit. I think we were like 6th or 5th place, and we didn't make the top 4. But then my second and third years, we really kind of came together more as a group, and we were winning a ton of games. We went to 3 finals in the last 2 years there. Unfortunately, we met Ken and Steinzel in the finals every time, and that was a tough matchup for us. But we were very successful. We won a lot of games. Jamar, well, what can you say against Jamar? You know, he's one of the most talented players who's ever came through Luxembourg. Now you see him playing in Darusafaka, you know, playing well, just coming off an injury right now. So we had a ton of talent on that team, and I definitely look back on those years and remember all the wins we had.
Mm-hmm. As a rookie coming in, did the stability of playing with someone like, say, you know, when we hire American pros, sometimes it's usually okay. After a season, one stays or one goes. But in your case, both of you stayed for like 3 years together. Did that stability of having not having to worry about readjusting to a new pro or to a new teammate, did that help you out in developing your own game and your own voice or leadership as a player?
Yeah, for sure. Especially a lot of games early in the season. Like I remember those last 2 years before Christmas time, when everybody else was still kind of getting in the groove with each other and learning how to play. We were like winning games, you know, back to back to back to back, because we were all so comfortable with each other, and we didn't need that extra time to kind of think about where someone's going to be, or, you know, if someone's going to help you here or there. We were all so used to it that that helped us out for sure with a lot of games.
All right. And then after 3 years of success with the Pikes, you moved on to Esh. Now you're a seasoned pro, you know, well versed and adjusted to Lux basketball. Did the role for you somehow change, or was the requirement for you change?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I came to Esh, I was kind of expected to be a little bit more of a scorer. With the Pikes team, we had it was just a different team. You know, we had guys who could really shoot, who could really score. Of course, you know, you talk about Jamar, like I said, you know, one of the best scorers, most talented guys who's came into Luxembourg ever, a lot of people say. So, you know, that a lot of the scoring pressure was off me with the Mosul Pikes. But in Esh, I'm expected to score a lot more, and I definitely view myself as more of a leader now. You know, now that I'm one of the older guys, I'm not 24 anymore. You know, I'm a 29-year-old veteran, like you said.
Hey.
So definitely, I look at myself as more of a scorer, more of a leader. You know, kind of the veteran on the group, as compared to back when I was younger with the Pikes. Yeah.
Well, I've had the chance to see some of your younger teammates when they were playing for the U20. Did you find yourself also as more of a mentor, or did you take more of a mentorship role with these young guys like Danny Fonseca, Jeffrey Montero, and Ben Kovac and Julian Lessel? Like,
Yeah.
did they gravitate towards you and say, "Hey, can you help us with your game?" Something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the best things about Esh and the Esh community is that everybody has such a good, good vibe around them. There's no attitude problems. There's no selfishness or ego. Even with the younger guys, sometimes you see a younger guy who has some talent and he kind of thinks more of himself than he should. But with Esh, there was never any attitude problems or anything, and all the young guys are very quick to learn and ask questions and really try to improve. So that's that's a really positive thing about all the young guys here in Ash.
What do you feel about? How do you feel about the evolution of the team in the last 4 years since you've been there? And like, what can you tell me about Basket Ash from the time that you came in until like now, the present?
Well, we're a little bit different team. Some of the Luxembourgish guys have came and gone, but the core is still there. You talk about the Beaver brothers, and then you talk about Alex Rodenborg as well. Those are the three main guys. Obviously, we lost Ben, which was big for us. You see how much Ben has grown up in the international games, and now playing very well in Den Helder as well. So that hurt us also, but it was time for Ben to go. He's taking the next step, which is fine.
You got
compared to a couple years ago. I don't know. I guess we're similar because we have the same core. Those same three guys, and I'm still there. And now Miles has fit really well into our system as well. He's a competitor. He wants to win just like all of us. So we get along well. I would say now we're as good as we ever were, or better, for sure.
Okay, great. Now, last season, when the league was eventually canceled, Ash was declared as the champions of the league. Right?
Yes.
And there was a lot of noise and back and forth, good or bad, on social media. We all know how that went.
Yes.
Was there a mentality going into the season where you guys played with a chip on your shoulders and like, let's prove that we deserve it? Did you guys have this attitude coming in, or was it like, we don't care about what other people said about last year?
We didn't care too much. I mean, there was nothing we could have done. I mean, we finished the game. We finished the season in first place. They said we were the champions, and then that was it. We didn't. It definitely felt different than a real championship. Nobody celebrated it like we won the finals or anything. But people are always going to be upset or disappointed if something like that happens, which is fine for us. Maybe people want to give us our best shot, but that's fine. If we've been one of the better teams for a couple of years now, so people are giving us their best shot anyways. It doesn't make too much of a difference for us. We're gonna play hard and try to win each game as if it would never happened, like that. So not too big of a deal, I don't think.
That's a really, really great attitude for a team as well. Shows that you guys are all together, and the fact that no one really bought it, no one really said anything back to all these. I mean, it was a tough decision to make, but it had to be made. So at the end of the day, we're all still here. You guys are still playing again, still another season. So now, 4 games into the season, it was put on pause, and that was like, okay. But then you had the chance to enter the national team bubble, right?
Yes.
When you got invited to play as a naturalized player for Luxembourg, how easy was that decision for you?
It was very easy. It wasn't even a decision. I had been talking to Ken about it for a little bit ever since I planned on getting my passport, and that was pretty much the plan. As soon as I got it, then I had sent it over to the federation, and then that was it. I was in. So I was excited to play in international basketball, which is really fun. It's competitive. It's faster. It's better players, and it really gets your adrenaline going a lot. So that's great.
All right. Well, you mentioned that you Basket Ash missed one player, who is Ben Kovac. But look who's here. Hey Ben, are you there?
Hey,
There he is. All right, you mentioned Ben Kovac, and here he is. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
You're good. Hey,
Beno.
congratulations on that big win last night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're here with Clancy, of course, as you know, and we planned this like for last week, but we didn't happen last Sunday, so now we're doing it today. We planned this, Clancy. There's a surprise for you. Ben, what can you tell us about Clancy? As a teammate, as on the inside, so to speak.
I
And
mean, Clancy is a good guy. He basically came to Ash in my second year, so I was still like kind of a baby. So Clancy coming from the Pikes, that was always the guy we had to look out for, watch out for on the Pikes. And having that guy on your team, we're all pretty happy about it. And since day one, I picked up everything I could from him. And yeah, I was kind of like his little brother. He taught me all the things he could. He was always like having my back and teaching me stuff. Like he was kind of hard on me, and that I think that helped me too. So I mean, Clancy is a great teammate, like on and off the court. He's trying to help you in every way he can, and he's just a great teammate and a great person.
all right, so you guys are, of course, main players in both bubbles in the FIBA tournament. Clancy, this kid, he came in as sixth man from Ash. I'm sure your work ethic rubbed off on him. But what can you tell us about this guy? I mean, he suddenly like erupted. I would say erupted in the last three games for Team Luxembourg.
You compare Ben right now to the Ben you saw, the last couple of years with Esh. He's like a new person. I think mentally he'd really grew up a lot. He took a lot of responsibility on himself as a professional player to take that next step and accept the responsibility that comes with being a pro. I think as a player in Esh, as a Luxembourgish player in Esh, when you're not a professional, it's just not the same pressure and expectations, and because of that, maybe you're not forced strongly enough to improve yourself or take the next step. But yeah, now when you look at Ben, you saw how he played in the international games, in both games. I really think Ben's taking that next step and really turning into a great professional already.
All right, Coach Ken mentioned a different mood in Kosovo when you got there. He said it was a little bit his term was hostile. It was a little bit hostile. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because we weren't there, of course, and no fans were there. How can you tell us a little bit about that Kosovo game? And it was a must-win game for Luxembourg, and how different was the environment going in there before and after the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it had a lot to do with that those were the last two games, so everybody was feeling so much pressure because everybody had to win to try to qualify.
Mm-hmm.
With those middle two games, it didn't feel exactly the same. Of course, it was still intense, but just because it was the last two games, everybody was really on edge and feeling the pressure and needing to get those wins. So I guess in that way, for sure, it was definitely more hostile.
Cool. Ben, how about you?
I mean, I think when we got there, it was kind of like I'm not talking for myself because I was playing for that moment, but the guys that haven't played a real basketball game in a couple of months, so the guys were really hungry and they wanted, we all wanted revenge on Kosovo. We know, we have still realistically chances to get qualified for the next round, and that was kind of like of a motivation. So I mean, we got into the game with the mentality to win, and we were not trying to be again like, oh yeah, we the underdogs, we're Luxembourg. We try to show the people that you should count on us and that we can definitely win games also against bigger teams. And yeah, I think we showed that too.
All right. Coach Brian was here last week, and he mentioned the fact that what inspired him to start writing again about basketball, or to get more involved in Luxembourg basketball, was the fact that, like you've mentioned, Ben, most of the guys on your team, aside from you pros, didn't play basketball for like 3-4 months. Clancy, how tough was it, like, for you guys to be able to meet and practice once or twice a week. I don't know what your practice schedule was, but how tough was it without having to play games and practice regularly and then coming together for the bubble?
It was very tough, especially for the first game. I was pretty rusty, just easy basic things, just in ball handling and passing and some of the shots. I was a little bit out of rhythm. But yeah, that's normal, like you said, without playing a game in a couple months, only having a couple weeks to practice also because we were in lockdown before that. So you couldn't even, if you wanted to work out, you couldn't even go in the fitness or in the gym or anything. So it was tough for sure to try to come back so quickly, but everything worked out well and we played really well. And so I think everybody's pretty happy with the results.
With the results. All right.
Yep.
So we have to go to the Iceland game. All right. I'm sure it was a dagger. And me watching as a fan, I mean, I told Ben I was emotional about it. I was emotional about it. And I mean, you guys were there, but like most of our guests also said previously, you shouldn't narrow it down to just this one play, right? Because you guys fought well for the entire tournament. But having experienced that before the game, was there ever any nerves, or was there how was the atmosphere in the locker room before he took the floor? Either of you guys can answer.
Go ahead, Benno. You take this one.
I mean, it was great. I mean, we were all hyped up, motivated to, we still had in our mind, okay, we won 2 games. We have the chance to win the 3rd game and have, like, really chances to qualify for the next round. We thought, okay, that could be historical right here. So, we were hyped up. We started the game, I'll say, okay, but they took over the second quarter. We kind of gave up, I'll say, in the first half. The shots were not falling. We were taking the bad decisions. They were up, I don't know, what was it, 14-16 at halftime. And, second half, I think Bobby found the right words in the locker room. He hyped us up. Coach was talking to us, and, I mean, we kind of got into each other, and we were like, hey, we cannot just give up like that. So second half, we fought. That was really, really, really nice to play like that because we saw everybody fighting. The bench gave energy. We played together. We took good decisions. We let the ball, the ball passing around, taking good decisions, good shots. And that was really like coming back from like against an Icelandic team like that, from being down 16 to be up to like, what was it, 7 seconds till the end. Yeah. And then, get a game-winning shot like that. I mean, that hurts pretty much because, I mean, normally a game that decides like that on the last possession, that hurts. But if you already come back from like a 16-point deficit and then you're already up 2 and then you still lost the game, I think, and that even cost your qualification, that hurts even more. But I mean, it's a part of a game. You win some, you lose some, and you got to learn from that. And I think we will get hungrier from that.
Mm-hmm. Clancy, at halftime, you were there. Ben mentioned that you guys had to hype yourself up. Was there ever any feeling that you guys are going to just, lay down? Or was it always going to be like Ken promised? He promised us a fight, so to speak. At halftime, was there ever anything special said, or was it just, let's go to work?
Yeah, Bobby found some choice words that I'm not gonna repeat here. But he got everybody fired up, and then Ken came in and made his speech after. And no, there was never any thoughts about just playing it easy for the second half. Okay, we came this far, we did well, we won a couple games. We're not a team that's thinking like that. Mm-hmm. If you look at the standings, like the world rankings, you see Iceland, you see us, then maybe it's easy to say that we lose by 20 or 30. But when there's 5 guys out there on either side, and you have 5 guys who are really believing and are just going to fight until the last second, like we did, then you're always going to have a chance. They got, like Ben said, they got really hot in the second quarter. They were making step back threes, contested shots. They were shooting from outside. The big guy was really good inside. Their whole game was on 100%, just full gas. And we were cold, so it was a combination. But then in the third and fourth quarter, it just completely switched.
Mm-hmm. True.
So So they had the first half, we had the second half, and then of course everybody knows what happened at the end. But you can also look back at the whole game and be pretty proud of the fact that nobody gave up, and that we stayed on the line, and that we didn't back down from a team that was 30 places higher in the world rankings, who has guys in the ACB, in the Bundesliga, in Lithuania. You know, like on paper, it looks like that, but
Easy win for them. Yeah,
it looks like that. It should,
Yeah.
but for
But
us,
it wasn't.
No, but for us, we're going to play the same as if it's Iceland, or if it's, I don't know, anybody. We're going to play hard. We're going to play together. We're going to play smart, and we're going to play for the full 40 minutes.
I think that's also what captured a lot of people's imaginations back in Lux. You know, I mean, I know a lot of people who watched that game, even people who didn't really follow Luxembourg basketball, and they were like, "Wow, this team really gave everything they could." And you know, I believe that you guys were really great representatives of the sport, and you guys really did really well. Like we've been mentioning for the past few episodes, you guys really went head and shoulders above what everyone expected of you, and you have every right to be damn proud of that. Post game, let's say post game, you know that as you mentioned, Ben, that had to hurt. But was there a realization towards the end or after a few minutes that, hey, damn, we played really good and we can continue to keep this level up? Like, was
you
there
want to
that
go, Clancy?
realization?
No, go ahead. You got it.
I mean, the first thing that pretty much I saw Alex struggle a lot with it, and myself. I mean, I didn't get as emotional as Alex, but Alex, you know, it hit him pretty hard, you know. So, I mean, the first thought after game is probably like, damn, like we lost. Like that's all that matters in that moment. Like you don't say like, oh yeah, we played well. At that moment, you don't really care. Like after the game was just like, hey, yo, we lost, and you know, we don't care who's going to qualify now because we're out. But no, after we went to the locker to settle in, Ken came in. We had a little talk. You know, we talked a little bit after the stretch, and we kind of realized, like, okay, guys, we can still be proud of each other. Like, I mean, let's say, because I know what we are capable of, I'm gonna say not satisfied, but I'll say proud, most definitely, because we put Luxembourg on the basketball map, I'll say. But yeah, I mean, after game, the first thought was really like, oh, nah, we just lost. But after, I think, a couple of minutes after, you know, the loss kind of settled in, we were just like, okay, we played a hell of a 2 bubbles, and we can really be proud of us.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Clancy?
No, but you know, Ben said everything. In that moment, right when you lose a tough game like that, it's pretty emotional, and you're not really thinking long term, and you can't really see anything but the scoreboard that says you lost. But then, yeah, we got back to the hotel and we started to talk about the game and started to look through our messages from home and kind of see everybody posting things online about us and how they thought we played well and how they were proud of us. And then you kind of start to realize the big picture is that we're slowly changing the culture of Luxembourgish basketball. You know, like 5 years ago, nobody's expecting games like this. And if you lose by 30, then okay, you lost by 30 just because we're Luxembourg. But now we're competing with these teams like Iceland. You know, like I said, 30 places in front of us, ahead of us in the world rankings.
FIBA rankings, yes.
And people are getting excited about it. You know, so maybe some little kids are seeing this and now they are excited to play basketball. And you know, hopefully the next generation of Luxembourgish, you know, athletes, but for our case, basketball, you know, they're inspired to really compete on the international stage, and I think we're starting the ball rolling in that direction.
All right, Ben. Before we let you go, I know you're a little bit busy, and hey, we will need to have you in this podcast solo as well at some point. Anything you want to say to Basket Ash and to Clancy before we let you go?
Well, I'm pretty in touch with the guys, so they kind of still talk to me a lot. But I mean, I'm following them. I mean, there is no other club for me than Basket Ash since I grew up in that club, and you know, I still think you guys are capable of winning it all again. And you know, I'm looking at the stats. I'm watching the live games, and you know, I'm still in the group chat, so I'm still reading your messages, and I'm there. I'm rooting for you guys, and even though I'm not there, I'm in your guys' hearts. So, and yeah, Clancy knows he's my big brother. I appreciate everything he did for me, and we keep in touch.
All
You're
right,
gonna make
hey.
me get emotional out here, Benno.
Hey Ben, we're also watching you, man. We're really proud of what you're doing out there.
Yes,
appreciate it.
Like I told you, man. You just keep getting better with every game, man, and that's you. That's a
Yeah, I'll
testament
try.
to you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, man. Talk to you soon,
All right,
okay,
guys.
Ben?
Yes.
All right.
Have fun, guys.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
ciao, bro.
Ciao. All right. Okay. Young Ben from I don't know, man. He was way different when I first watched him play. But what I really liked about him was when we were at the under 20 tournament, his work ethic was something I actually didn't expect to see. He's a different breed.
Yeah, he is, and you like to see that from young guys, especially
Exactly.
you can see guys play well in the court, but if they're not working hard off the court, then maybe down the road they're not going to reach their full potential. But with Ben, I think he's hungry, and he wants to stay after and get up extra shots or come early and get in the weight room, stuff like that. So you like to see that from a young player.
All right, so heading towards the end of this interview, we go to the restart. Was it tough to recalibrate for the restart? Like you had to come down from the high of FIBA competition to come back and have to reintegrate the team together or pull the team back together to start the season again.
Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace, you could say. Coming from the international game, especially like we were just talking about, so intense games. The Iceland game is just we lost, but it was just completely intense and like packed with adrenaline. And then you come back here and you got to start practicing again, and it kind of slows down a little bit from the pace of the international game. But that's okay. I'm back home and I'm back with my friends and my family and my team. So I'm comfortable here, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, actually, I asked Ken, I think about a week ago, right before you played them, like, how difficult has the transition been for you? And he was like, man, I don't know if I'm mentally fully there yet, and, and I understand him. Like you said, it's been a pretty intense weekend or week for you guys with the national team. So National One is able to play, right? And there's a lot of safety procedures for players and coaches. Would you mind walking us through some of those, or through like what a regular week would be like for a team aside from practices?
Yeah, sure. Just as far as testing goes, we have to get tested, I think, a day or two before each game. So that's just with the quick test. And then, just during the game, I think follow all basic procedures, like we're not, fist bumping with the referees before or after the game. I think everybody's taking pretty good care, washing their hands or just doing small stuff like that to try to stay, without the bacteria. Just everybody's just being careful. Pretty much, that's how it is.
How much is the missing fan interaction affecting you feel, or do you think that missing fan interaction affects the players a lot, or it's minimal?
I think it's huge, and it's very strange not having any fans, especially the last couple of years in Esch. I think we've had one of the strongest fan section supporters in the whole country. These guys are going around everywhere with the drums and being loud before and after and during games. But yeah, then you go play at a place like Dudelange that normally for the Derby, Esch Dudelange is like completely full and going crazy. And then it's empty and it feels like you're just having like a practice training session. It's very strange. It's kind of like you go out and you start playing and it feels, it's like hard to get yourself going a little bit, when all the people aren't there. But I guess that's the year we're living in, 2021. You just have to get used to it and move on.
Yeah, well, actually, that was one thing that Coach Brian and I mentioned last weekend. sometimes it feels like you might be playing just a preseason game, and it's kind of
Yeah.
might be difficult to get yourself up, to the certain level that you're used to. Um, but you mentioned that you played in that derby with Dudelange, and of course, I like that matchup. I think that we're going to see a lot more of that matchup between you and Steve Harris.
Yeah.
How much did okay? I'm not going to say how much did you enjoy that because, of course, of the result, but how much are you looking forward to the next round of that matchup?
I'm looking forward to the rematch for sure. There's a couple teams where you're always looking forward to. For sure, Dudelange and Etzella are always kind of circled on the list before the season even starts. And then yeah, this year you have a lot of teams that are surprising. You have La Rochette who's playing well, Conturn who's playing well. So but you have to be ready. Any team can beat any team at the moment because I think with the late restart, teams are still kind of getting used to each other.
True.
And not at full 100%. So you really have to be ready. You can't just not prepare for any team. Even if they're not one of those teams I talked about for sure.
You played Sparta last night, and that was a win. The one thing that grabbed me was like they kept it close. They pretty much kept it close. What can you tell me about their young bigs? I mean, you have Mike Feipel and you have Mattis Wolf, and I'm sure you battled against them because they're basically they're 4 or 5 players. What can you tell me about these young guys? I know most of Mike has also been in the national team pool with you, as well as Mattis and Jan Wolf, as well as brother. What can you tell me about these young guys from Sparta?
I really like their games, and I think the best part about Sparta and their young teams that they play really hard. The whole game. They're not a team. I think we went up like maybe between 10 and 15 points at some time, and for a lot of the young teams, that would have been kind of the breaking point where we could have turned it into 25. In a couple minutes like that, especially being the older, more experienced veteran team, it could have quickly been 25. But they really hung in there the whole game, and they play fast. They try to fast break even after made baskets. But you have to like their attitude and the way they play. Especially the guys you talked about. They got a couple national team players too. They're even though they're not playing with professionals, I really like their team and the way they play. Mm-hmm. So talking about those teams that you can't take lightly, that's one of them for sure.
When you take a look at these young guys coming up and comparing them to when you first came in here 7 years ago, do you see a marked difference in how they play or in how they develop, how rapidly these kids develop? And do you think that this is because they also get to play with, 2 Americans or pros in practices? Does this really play a huge part in their development?
I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I think that it's just a normal cycle of how basketball goes. When one generation kind of starts getting a little bit older, then the newer, younger generation kind of feels like they have a chance to prove themselves. And they get hungry, and that's why you see all these young guys. A couple guys that you mentioned, who have a chance to play on the national team, maybe have a chance to play without Americans or other professionals. Maybe that even motivates them even more to go prove themselves. I'd like to see young guys who are really motivated and hungry to get better and play well. And I think in a lot of different teams in Luxembourg, you're really seeing that. It's good to see the young guys improving.
They call this a white season, basically meaning that no one's going down. But yep. I'm pretty sure that the goals for Esh has not changed for this year. All right. So aside from what are your own personal goals on and off the court for this season and for maybe the next 2 or 3 more? I mean, you keep saying that you're old, but 27 is still your prime years. 27, 31 still your prime years. So there's still a lot of Clancy Rugg coming. So what do you have personal goals on and off the court?
First and foremost, just stay healthy. Try to keep keep this thing rolling as long as I can. Really trying to take good care of myself. Get in the weight room, make sure my body's taken care of, do recovery. I'm actually 29 now, so it
Still
feels a
young?
lot. Yeah, it feels a lot different than 24 though.
Okay.
And yeah, as far as basketball goes, it's just win. I just want to win. I think we have the team to do it. I think we have the age and the experience to do it. I think we have the motivation to do it. But the thing is, everybody wants to win, and there's teams that also have those expectations and the teams to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's just about just getting over that hump, being able to knock down shots in pressure games. That's been our weakness is shooting. But we've really been working on that. We saw guys shoot really well yesterday, actually. So if we can improve in a couple of things, then we're going to win some games this year for sure.
All right. Well, what are things that other people don't know about you too much? Like, I'm pretty sure there's more to Clancy than just a basketball player and a father. Like, what are other things, like any hobbies or anything else that you like doing in your free time?
Pretty much any kind of sport. I love getting outside. Now that my son is getting a little bit older, he's keeping me active. In the summertime, I love playing golf. I try to golf as much as I can. I love getting out, going to the park, just with my son and just hanging out, just relaxing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, off the court, I'd always try to stay as active as I can. Try to have other interests. Keep learning new skills and interests. Yeah.
The time zone from here in the States are way different. Do you still follow the NBA? Because usually those games are like at 2 a.m. our time. Do you still follow the league as much, or is it more like a casual observer sometimes?
Yeah, I would say more of a casual observer. I mean, I'm watching highlights. I'm checking scores, but for watching the games, I can't stay up that late anymore. Not when I'm waking up early with my son.
Yeah, they usually wake up at 6.
Yeah, anytime after like 10, 11 o'clock, it's like my eyes like start to get a little heavy. I'm like, okay, get me in the bed. I'm ready. No, but
All right, so
I follow it as much as any other basketball fan does, but for watching the games, no way.
So you're just gonna watch the highlights for tonight's All-Star game?
What time is the game? Do you know?
I think around 2:30.
Oh, it's going to be highlights for me. For sure.
Highlights for us, yeah, or NBA League Pass in the afternoons or something like that.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, before I let you go, you mentioned that you had some dates circled in here for a Clancy Rugg basketball camp.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to be doing a couple basketball camps this summer, if we're allowed. Because of COVID, you never can be 100% sure what the rules are going to be. But I've reserved a couple dates. It's going to be in Esch. The first date is going to be the first week of school holidays. Try to get everybody before they start traveling. So that'll be from July 19th till the 23rd. And then the second one will be from August 30th until September 3rd, I think it is.
Yeah.
So try to miss that big window where a lot of people are going on holidays and getting out of Luxembourg. But it's going to be a great time. Everybody's going to get a T-shirt. We're going to play a lot. There's going to be awards to win. There's going to be, competitions. It's going to be all centered around having fun, improving your game, meeting new friends, and just having a good time. So I'm working on a Facebook page right now. I will be getting that out probably within the week so everybody can stay up to date if you're interested in following. And the age is going to be from 9 to 15.
All right.
For boys and girls.
Cool.
So it's open to anybody. It doesn't have to be just Esch people. You're welcome from anywhere, all over the place. We're going to have a great time.
Are beginners, beginners accepted as well? People who want to start playing basketball?
For sure. Any skill level, beginner or, everyday player. Like I said, we're going to be focused around having fun and improving and just having a great time. So it doesn't matter. come on over, and we're gonna have a great time.
Cool. All right. So as soon as you have all those details and the Facebook page set up, let us know so we can also plug this on our own social networks. All right.
Yes, that sounds great.
Hey, Clancy, thank you very much. I know your son's probably waiting for you to play or go out. It's a really, really sunny day out, and
yeah,
you saw my kid come flash himself a little earlier today, but getting ready for biking as well. So hey, I'm not gonna keep you. All I have to say is good luck, keep healthy, and talk to you soon, and hope you get everything that you want to aspire for this year, man. And
thank you very much. Yeah,
like a lot of people said, we're really proud of how you guys showed out for Luxembourg.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me. It was a great time.
All right, man. It was great for me too. See you. Talk to you soon, man.
All right.
Bye.
Ciao.
All right, that's our show for today. And once again,
Coach's Timeout with
my name's
Nigel and
Coach Nigel
Christoph.
Tolentino,
Podcast.
and have fun, stay safe, play hard, and we'll see you